Hello, I'm Dr. Maury Markman from City of Hope, and today and in the next several segments of Minutes with Markman, I would like to briefly discuss what I consider to be a very important but a little different topic. It's the individual versus the evolving team concept in medical and specifically oncologic care. To emphasize the nature of this transition, I would like to begin with a personal story from my own early experience in medicine. My first night as a medical intern at New York City's very famous public hospital, Bellevue. Many of you may know that hospital by the classic Dustin Hoffman line in Midnight Cowboy, where he says, "Just get me on a bus. You ain't sending me to Bellevue." Not a lot of good publicity for that incredibly wonderful institution. But the story goes on. I was called by a nurse in the middle of the night to see a very sick man on the medical ward. I asked the covering senior resident to come and help me. Again, remember, this is my first night as a medical intern. I discussed the case and I asked the senior resident his opinion. And his words to me, which I will never forget: "Doctor, the decisions and actions you take now will determine the fate of this patient." Now, of course, this was a teaching point, and I was provided the assistance I required. But the point here that I'm trying to emphasize is the role which he was suggesting was my individual responsibility that would determine the fate of this patient. So much has changed over the intervening years. Today, for example, the patient I'm described would surely have not been on a medical ward. He would have been in an intensive care unit. Depending upon his particular illness, he would have been cared for and have intervention by multiple specialists, potentially an intensivist in the intensive care unit, cardiologist, pulmonologist, nephrologist, gastroenterologist, and possibly even a palliative care doctor. And while the individual physicians involved should today have no difference in their own feelings about their responsibility for the patient's welfare, the actual delivery of optimal Medicare has undergone substantial evolution. For almost any complex illness, it is now a team effort that will determine the outcome of patients. And oncology is certainly in the forefront of this revolution, I would say, over a number of years in the delivery of care. More on the topic of the individual versus the evolving team in the delivery of cancer care in the next segment of Minutes with Markman, and I thank you for your attention.